George, 6 tenths off the pace. Is that roughly where the car is this weekend?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. We obviously brought a couple of updates. I guess we all hoped for a little bit more, but when you take the season as an average, we've probably qualified better than average. And when you look at our gap to the midfield, as a percentage to the gap ahead, to the gap behind as well, we're probably the furthest away from them we've been since Zandvoort or since Budapest. So, yeah, some positives to take away from it, but we know Sunday's where it's at, and I think there's a real opportunity.
There's some good maths that you did to work it out.
Well, is it 50%? I don't know. I just plucked a number out of the sky there, but it's. we were probably closer to the front than we were to the midfield today, which is probably rare for us.
And long afternoon tomorrow. It's very windy today. I guess the conditions will be warmer as well, so you don't know what can happen, right?
No, I think as well, because we had that Pirelli tyre test yesterday. FP2 is usually where we do all of the practice ahead of the race, so there's a couple of unknowns going into Sunday, and it's sort of rare that as a driver you go into a race going into the weekend more excited about the race than qualifying, because qualifying is where the car is sort of alive and you're going fastest. But definitely really excited for this race because I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities, lots of pit stops, a lot of unknowns, and that's good news for us.
Great stuff. Have
Thank
fun.
you.
George hot foots it up onto the stage here. Well done, George. Well done, mate. Fantastic. So two Mercedes on the second row of the grid, about as best as you could have hoped for.
Always hope for more. I think when you go into a qualifying session, you always dream and believe, but obviously we've got to be realistic. We know that qualifying isn't our strongest point, but I think we'll take it. It's probably the furthest we've been away from the midfield and the closest we've been to the front for quite a while. So step forward.
Yeah, what do you attribute that to? Lewis was just talking about the gap not really seeming like it's closing up that much, and it stays there. And from the outside looking in, it looks like you guys keep getting closer and closer, the both of you now. So what has been the biggest change?
Yeah, I think it's, this is a long track, a lot of corners, it tests the cars a lot, so those gaps are always pretty large. So if you look at it from, let's say, a lap time, it seems like we've not closed, but if you look at it as like a percentage, let's say,
right,
it's definitely closer. But the team back at the factory are doing a great job to keep on updating the car, trying to make it a little bit lighter and sort of bring in, I wouldn't necessarily say improvements, but more trying to understand what we need for the car for next year, and that's where most of the focus is.
George, you always say that it's teamwork and you don't want to beat your teammate, and we don't believe you. But I must say, around here, that is an amazing job against Lewis. Was this one of the more difficult tracks for you when you look at your teammates' data and go, how does he do that?
Yeah, I'm not going to be celebrating because I'm half a tenth off, and definitely a bit disappointed with that. And it's been a tricky couple of races for me for various reasons.
What were those, George? What were the reasons?
I've got to be honest, we don't really know exactly what it is, and I think we had such a clean run of form, and there was sort of no issues, no little problems whatsoever with the car. And then we got to Singapore and had a bit of a problem with the brakes, and then that was a reoccurrence in Japan. Here was just a bit more of a smooth qualifying session for me, so sort of pleased to get a bit closer to where I was at the start of the year, but definitely I don't quite feel at the level that I probably was earlier this season.
You seem to have a really good relationship with Lewis. You've worked together to develop this car, but I need to ask you, because it's only Jensen back in 2011 and Nico Rosberg in 2016 who have beaten Lewis as a teammate over the course of a season. What would it mean to you to do that, George, as we kind of hone in on the business end of the year?
I mean, if you asked me that at the start of the season, I probably would have said it means everything, because if you beat Lewis Hamilton, it probably means you'll be world champion. So, if I finish ahead, if I finish behind, obviously I want to finish ahead of him, of course, but I'm here to win, and I want to win races, I want to be on pole position, and I want to fight for championships. So it's everything sort of on the line at the moment to try and achieve that. And, examples like in Montreal when we took that gamble on the slicks, if I just wanted to beat my teammate, I would have just stayed out on wets and just made sure that was my focus. But we were going for pole position, and we had to sort of roll the dice. And the same tomorrow, I'm not going to be focused on Lewis. I'm going to be focused on the guy who's leading the race to try and win this race tomorrow. So that's the mentality.
Well, I love that call in Montreal, of course, but what for you coming down to the end of the season, like last mini goals, what for you will be a good exit from the season? What kind of results?
Yeah, I think I want to get back on the podium for sure. It feels like an age ago since we were last in that top 5. We obviously had such a good run of form, and then Singapore and Japan were just terrible, really, from my sort of personal performance and everything that went on. So I want to get back into that groove. But as I said, truly fighting for race wins. I think that's the goal for us. Even if we don't achieve a race win, because it's looking increasingly unlikely that we'll be able to achieve that, but having races like we did in Zandvoort, like we did in Budapest, where we definitely had a fighting chance to achieve it.
Yeah, you know, Sundays seem to be better for you guys in terms of competitiveness. Both of you are up the front, so you guys should have a good opportunity.
All to play for.
Yeah, exactly.
All to play for.
No excuses.
No,
right?
no excuses, no excuses. Yeah, good night's sleep. It's rare that, to be honest, that a driver goes into a weekend more excited about the race than qualifying. But I went to sleep last night after doing the test yesterday thinking, you know what, I think Sunday's going to be an exciting day, a lot of tired leg, multiple options with a strategy. And I think that's what makes these F1 races exciting. If it's an easy one-stop, it's the same for everyone, and it's not that eventful.
Exactly. Top man, appreciate it. Best of luck
Have a
tomorrow,
good day.
George.
Cheers, guys.